The July sun hammered down on the adobe walls of the Santa Clara Pueblo, baking the earth to a dusty ochre. Anna Littlehawk, 23, wiped sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, leaving a smudge of dark soil. The scent of pinyon smoke hung faintly in the still air, mingling with the dry perfume of sagebrush carried on a listless breeze. Her fingers, calloused and strong, carefully pulled weeds from the struggling corn patch. Her mother's garden, now hers alone. It felt like tending a ghost. A year since pneumonia, swift and brutal, had stolen Maria Littlehawk. The res clinic, underfunded, overwhelmed, had offered little more than comfort. The memory was a physical ache in Anna's chest, a hollow space the relentless New Mexico sun couldn't fill. Her mother's voice echoed in the quiet. Shidai, turquoise protects the spirit. It holds the sky and the water. We're close. Anna touched the smooth, cool stone of the ring on her right hand, its intricate silver band warm from her skin. Protection. It felt thin against the weight of loss and the simmering unease that had settled over her like the heat haze. Inside the small, cool house, the silence was louder. Photographs smiled from the walls, her parents young and hopeful, Anna and Thomas as gap-toothed children splashing in the Rio Chama, her mother's serene face framed by long, dark hair. Thomas, her baby brother, 19 now, and a storm cloud brewing. The front door slammed, shaking the frame. He stomped in, smelling of engine grease, cheap beer, and something else, a sharp, metallic tang that made Anna's nose wrinkle. His dark eyes, usually bright with mischief or simmering frustration, were shadowed, darting around the room before landing on her. "Hey," he mumbled, heading straight for the ancient refrigerator. "Hey," Anna replied, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Long day at the garage?" She kept her voice neutral. Joe's auto, where Thomas apprenticed, was a constant source of friction. Joe Martinez was a hard man, known for quick fixes and quicker tempers. Thomas idolized him, mistaking roughness for strength. Thomas cracked open a soda, the hiss loud in the quiet. "Yeah, whatever. Stupid tourists with their stupid cars breaking down in the heat." He took a long swig, avoiding her gaze. "Place is a sweatbox. Maybe take a shower?" Anna suggested gently. The metallic smell clung to him. He shot her a look defensive. "What? I smell bad now? Too much like work for you." He slammed the can down on the counter, sloshing brown liquid. "Not all of us get to play in the dirt all day, Anna. Some of us actually try to make real money. Get out." The old argument. The Rez's limitations pressing in on him like the canyon walls. Their mothers' whispered dreams of him going to college in Albuquerque, becoming an engineer, felt like cruel taunts now. Poverty was a cage, and Thomas rattled the bars with increasing fury. "This dirt," Anna said, her own temper flaring, pointing towards the garden, "feeds us, Thomas. Or did you forget that too?" "Feeds us scraps," he retorted. "While guys like Joe, they know how things work. They don't just scrape by. They get things." There was a hard edge to his voice, a bitterness that went beyond resentment. It tasted of envy, laced with something darker. "What things, Thomas?" Anna pressed, stepping closer. "What things is Joe Martinez getting you into?" His face closed like a shutter. "Nothing. Forget it." He pushed past her towards a narrow hallway leading to their rooms. "Just lay off, Anna." "Okay." She watched him go, the unease coiling tighter in her gut. It wasn't just teenage angst anymore. Something was wrong. Later, driven by a dread she couldn't name, she waited until she heard the shower running. Moving quickly, quietly, she slipped into his room. Chaos. Clothes strewn everywhere, car magazines spilling off a rickety desk, the sharp scent of motor oil and cheap cologne. Her eyes scanned the mess, looking for what? Proof? Of what? Then she saw it. His prized, worn leather jacket, thrown carelessly over the back of a chair. She approached it cautiously, as if it might bite. The metallic smell was stronger here. She patted the pockets. Empty. Nothing in the inner breast pocket. Disappointment warred with relief. Maybe she was imagining things. Stress. Grief. Her foot nudged something under the bed. A loose floorboard, barely noticeable but slightly raised near the head. Heart pounding, Anna knelt. Her fingers found the edge, pried it up with a soft scrape. Darkness. She reached in, her hand brushing against cool, smooth paper. Not trash. She pulled out a thick, ledger-style notebook. Its cover was plain, stained with grease and something darker. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Neat columns filled the pages. Dates. Locations. Littlehawk, Coyote Canyon Mine, Route 84 Marker 17, Res Road 3, North Fork. Initials. RVJMTL. Her own brother's initials. Amounts. $500, $1,200, $2,000. Large sums. Too large for garage work. And codes. Hay bales delivered. Construction gear acquired. Coyote equals a case. A snake 50 cao. Ice flooded Anna's veins. 50 cao. Guns. Military guns. Then she saw it scrawled boldly in a margin beside a large entry. A coiled rattlesnake symbol, and beneath it, Hermandad del Sur. Carga is special. Fuego. The Southern Brotherhood. Special cargo. Fire. The name was a whispered curse on the res, connected to the Mexican cartels flooding the state with cocaine. But this, Carga Especial, Fuego, this was something else. Something infinitely more deadly. Guns. High-powered weapons flowing through her homeland, facilitated by her brother. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at her throat. She shoved the ledger back, replaced the floorboard, her movements jerky. She had to find Thomas. Now, he wasn't at Joe's. The grimy garage was locked up tight. The Rio Chalma. It was their place, had been since they were kids. A spot downstream, shaded by ancient cottonwoods, where the water ran slow and deep. She found him there, sitting on the sun-baked bank, skipping stones across the murky brown water. He didn't turn as she approached, but his shoulders tensed. Thomas. He flinched, the stone in his hand falling forgotten. He finally looked at her, his eyes wide with a fear that confirmed everything. Anna, what are you doing here? I know, Thomas. Her voice was low, trembling. I found the ledger. The Hermandad. The guns. Carga Especial. Fuego. What have you done? Color drained from his face. He scrambled to his feet. You shouldn't have looked. You don't understand anything. I understand it's blood money. Anna shot back, stepping closer. The river gurgled softly beside them, a counterpoint to the tension crackling in the air. I understand people are dying. Here. In Mexico. Because of guns like that flooding in, Mom would be sickened. Mom's dead, Thomas shouted, the raw pain bursting out. Dead because we couldn't afford a real doctor. Dead because this place sucks the life out of you. This money, Joe says it's our way out, Anna. Like Mom wanted for us. A house off res. A real life. A life built on death. Anna's voice broke. Thomas, look at me. This isn't you. You're better than this. Joe Martinez is using you. He's showing me how the real world works. Thomas spat. Not this res fantasy land. The cops, the tribal police, they're useless. Or bought off. The Hermandad, they own this land. They see everything. They know everything. His eyes darted past her, towards the thick scrub oak lining the bank upstream. A primal fear flickered in them. Just forget you saw it, Anna. Please, walk away. For your own good. I can't, Anna said, her voice hardening with resolve. She pulled the crumpled ledger pages from her jacket pocket. I won't. This stops. You stop, or I go to the tribal police. To the feds. Today. Thomas's face contorted, not in anger now, but in pure, unadulterated terror. Not for himself, Anna realized with dawning horror, but for her. He looked over her shoulder again, his breath catching. It's too late, he whispered, the words barely audible over the river's flow. They're here. Before Anna could turn, before she could even process his words, two figures materialized from the dappled shadows of the scrub oak like vengeful spirits. Men she didn't know, dressed in worn jeans and denim jackets despite the heat. Bandanas obscured the lower halves of their faces. Only their eyes were visible, flat, cold, utterly merciless. Thomas flinched back as if struck, a choked sound escaping him. "Anna, run," he gasped, the words ripped from him. One of the men lunged. Fust, silent. Anna stumbled backwards, her boot catching on a gnarled root. She hit the muddy bank hard, the impact jarring her bones, knocking the breath from her lungs in a painful whoosh. The world tilted violently. Cold, gritty water closed over her face as she slid into the river's edge. The shock was paralyzing. Then, strong hands, impossibly strong, clamped onto her shoulders, shoving her head down, holding her under. Darkness. Cold. The muffled roar of the river filling her ears. She thrashed wildly, instinct battling the suffocating terror. Mud and silt churned around her. Sunlight fractured through the murky water above her like broken glass. Her lungs screamed, burning for air she couldn't reach. She kicked, clawed at the hands, but they were iron, immovable. The last sound she heard wasn't the river's rush, but a ragged, choked sob cut brutally short. Thomas. Then, only the crushing weight, the icy water, the fading light. The cool turquoise ring on her finger, a final, silent plea against the encroaching dark. The sheriff's deputy, Bud Henderson, mopped his brow with a stained handkerchief. The Rio Chama shimmered under the late afternoon sun, but the air by the bank felt thick and heavy with unsaid things. Thomas Littlehawk sat hunched on a rock, shivering despite the heat, his eyes red-rimmed and vacant. He reeked of river water and fear. "So, let me get this straight, son," Henderson drawled, his voice heavy with skepticism. He flipped open a notepad. "You and your sister were out here, talking, arguing, you said? About what?" Thomas flinched. "Stuff. Family stuff. Since Mom died, she wasn't right." Sad. Angry. His voice was a monotone, rehearsed. "Started using, I think. Pills maybe. I don't know." Henderson scribbled. "Using, right? Depressed. Go on." She got real upset. Started yelling crazy things. About leaving. About people watching us. Thomas swallowed hard, avoiding the deputy's gaze. Then she just stumbled. Fell in. I tried to grab her, but the current, it was fast there, pulled her under. He buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. The performance was convincing, born of genuine terror, but not for the reason Henderson assumed. Henderson looked out at the slow-moving brown water. Tricky currents, sure. Undertows could form, especially near roots. A young native woman, grieving her mother, maybe strung out on pills, it fit a depressingly familiar pattern. Easier than looking for complications. Easier than ruffling feathers. He'd heard whispers about the Littlehawk boy hanging around Joe Martinez's place. Joe had friends. Friends it wasn't healthy to cross. "We'll drag the area," Henderson said, closing his notepad with finality. "But this river, things get hung up, or they go all the way down to the Rio Grande. Don't hold out much hope, son." He placed a heavy hand on Thomas's shoulder. Thomas recoiled as if burned. "Probable accidental drowning," Henderson stated, the words falling like stones. "Exacerbated by possible intoxication and emotional distress. Case closed." The words echoed in Thomas's hollowed-out chest. Case closed. Anna was gone. Erased. Reduced to a statistic, a cautionary tale whispered on the res. Poor Anna Littlehawk. Grief and pills got her. Lost in the river. The truth, the ledger, the Hermandad, the cold, dead eyes of the men who held him back as they murdered his sister. It was all buried deeper than Anna's body would ever be. And Thomas? He was trapped, a silent witness, now bound by the cartels, chains tighter than ever. His punishment for Anna's defiance was his continued existence as their pawn. His silence was the price for his father's life, for whatever semblance of safety remained. The guilt was a living thing inside him, gnawing at his soul, a constant companion in the suffocating silence of the years that followed. The desert held its breath. October 2010 painted the high desert of northern New Mexico in gold and russet. The air was crisp, sharp with the scent of curing grasses and juniper berries. Ben Carter, 28, whistled a tuneless melody, his hiking boots crunching on the gravelly path. Beside him, Koa, a sleek, intelligent German shepherd, trotted with his nose sweeping the ground like a furry metal detector. They were miles from anywhere, deep in Bureau of Land Management territory north of Española, mapping erosion patterns for Ben's geology thesis. Solitude was the point. "All right, Koa, this way, buddy," Ben called, veering off the main trail onto a faint game track winding through pinyon and juniper woodland. The silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of their footsteps and the distant cry of a hawk. Koa suddenly froze. His head snapped up, ears pricked forward, then flattened against his skull. A low, guttural growl vibrated in his chest, unlike his usual playful alerts. He wasn't looking at a rabbit or a deer. He was fixated on the base of a massive, ancient juniper stump, its wood weathered silver gray, gnarled roots clawing at the rocky soil. "What is it, boy?" Ben approached cautiously, his own senses prickling. Koa ignored him, dropping into a focused crouch, his powerful shoulders bunching. Then he began to dig. Not the playful scratch, but a frantic, purposeful excavation, dirt flying between his hind legs. "Koa, easy." Ben moved closer, unease coiling in his stomach. The dog wasn't usually interested in critter holes. Koa paused, panting, his dark eyes fixed on the hole he'd made. He whined, a high-pitched, anxious sound Ben had never heard before. He nudged the hole with his nose, then looked back at Ben, whining again. Ben knelt beside the stump. The hole was deep, a foot or more. He peered in, shielding his eyes from the sun. Not an animal burrow. Something pale and smooth gleamed against the dark earth. Not a root, not a stone. He reached in, his fingers brushing cool, unyielding smoothness. He carefully pried it loose. It lay in his palm. Small, delicate, unmistakably human. A finger bone, and on it, crusted with dirt but undeniably intact, a simple silver ring set with a piece of turquoise cracked clean through the center. Ben's blood turned to ice water. His breath hitched. Human. He stared at the tiny bone, the vibrant blue stone against the red earth. Koa nudged his hand, whining softly. The vast, empty silence of the wilderness pressed in, suddenly heavy and accusing. "Good boy, Koa," Ben whispered, his voice hoarse. "Good boy." He carefully wrapped the bone and ring in his bandana, his hands trembling. He pulled off his bright orange beanie and placed it carefully on the stump, a stark marker against the weathered wood. Grabbing Koa's leash, Ben Carter started to run. The fluorescent lights of the state police forensic lab hummed with sterile indifference. Detective Maria Gurez leaned over the stainless steel examination table, her dark eyes intense, missing nothing. The skeletal remains, meticulously arranged, told a fragmented story of a life violently ended. Dr. Eris Thorne, the forensic anthropologist, pointed a gloved finger towards the skull. "See here, Maria? And here." His voice was calm, precise. "These fractures, radial depressed. Classic paramatum blunt force trauma. Significant force, likely something heavy and solid. A rock? A tool handle? See the patterning here? Not consistent with post-mortem tumbling in a riverbed or erosion over decades. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a river. This was homicide, delivered with intent." Maria nodded, absorbing the information. The victim was female, estimated late teens to early 20s based on epiphyseal fusion. Petite frame. The turquoise ring, now cleaned and photographed, lay in a separate evidence tray. It glowed with a quiet vibrancy against the sterile gray. Maria had felt a jolt when she first saw it in the field evidence bag. Something familiar. A ghost from a cold case file. Anything else? Dental records? Poor dental care, Eris said. No obvious restorations. Makes matching tricky. We'll run isotopes for geographical origin, but that takes time. The ring, that's your best shot for a quick ID. Maria picked up the evidence bag containing the ring. The cracked turquoise seemed to hold the desert sky within it. She walked back to her cramped office, the hum of the lab replaced by the quiet whir of her computer. She pulled up the cold case database, filtering for missing females, Native American, northern New Mexico, early 1980s. The file was thin, almost insultingly so. Littlehawk, Anna. D.O.B. March 15, 1958. Missing, July 22, 1981. Last seen, Rio Chama, near Santa Clara Pueblo. Suspected accidental drowning. Depression. Possible substance abuse. Attached was a single, grainy photograph from a tribal ID. A young woman with serious dark eyes and long black hair. And on her right hand, clearly visible, a silver ring with a turquoise stone. Maria zoomed in. The shape, the setting, the stone's color and matrix pattern. It was a match. Anna Littlehawk hadn't drowned in the Rio Chama. She'd been murdered and hidden miles away, deep in the BLM wilderness. Got you, Maria murmured, a fierce determination settling in her core. She picked up the phone. Give me Thomas Littlehawk's current address and place of employment. And get that ring to Leighton Prince. I want every nanometer scanned. Someone held her down. Someone buried her. Someone left a trace. The scent of grease, ozone, and stale coffee hung thick in Littlehawk Auto Repair. Thomas, now 48, looked up from the engine block of a battered Chevy pickup as the bell over the door jingled. His hands, ingrained with grease, stilled. He saw the badge clipped to Maria Gutierrez's belt first, then her face. His own face, weathered and heavier than in the old photo Maria had seen, went carefully blank, but his eyes held a trapped animal wariness. Thomas Littlehawk? Maria asked, her voice calm, professional. That's me. He wiped his hands on a rag that looked permanently dirty. What can I do for you, officer? Detective Gutierrez, NM State Police. She showed her ID. Mind if we talk? He shrugged, a gesture meant to convey indifference that didn't reach his eyes. Shop's open. What's this about? He gestured towards a relatively clean corner near a cluttered desk. Maria didn't sit. She kept her posture open but watchful. We're revisiting some older cases. Missing persons. Your sister, Anna Littlehawk, disappeared in 1981. Thomas flinched. A tiny, almost imperceptible recoil, but Maria caught it. His knuckles whitened where he gripped the rag. Anna? That was a long time ago. River took her. Sheriff said so. We found remains, Mr. Littlehawk, Maria said, watching him closely. On BLM land, north of Española, miles from the Rio Chama. The color drained from Thomas's face. He swayed slightly, bracing a hand against the fender of the truck. Remains? Anna's? His voice was a rasp. We believe so. We're awaiting DNA confirmation, but we found something with the remains. Maria pulled a small, clear evidence envelope from her jacket pocket. Inside, the turquoise ring gleamed under the shop's fluorescent lights. Recognize this? Thomas stared at it. His breath hitched audibly. For a moment, the carefully constructed walls crumbled. Raw pain, profound grief, and crushing guilt flooded his features. His shoulders slumped, and he looked every one of his 48 years, plus 29 more of carrying an unbearable secret. He reached out a trembling hand, stopping just short of touching the plastic. That was Anna's, he whispered, the words thick with tears he couldn't shed. Our mother gave it to her. Turquoise for protection. The bitter irony hung unspoken in the greasy air. The forensic anthropologist determined she was murdered. Thomas, Maria said softly, but firmly. Struck on the head. Hard. Her body was hidden. Deliberately. Not lost in the river. Thomas closed his eyes. A single tear escaped, carving a clean track through the grime on his cheek. He didn't speak for a long moment. When he opened his eyes, the trapped animal was back, but it was cornered now, exhausted. I always knew, he breathed. In here. He tapped his chest. I felt it. Every day. But I was scared. So damn scared. Of who, Thomas? Maria stepped closer, her voice low and intent. Who were you scared of back then? Who scared you so much you lied to the police? Who killed your sister? The silence stretched, filled only by the ticking of the cooling engine block. Thomas looked around his shop, his prison, his sanctuary. He looked at the ring, that small piece of sky-blue stone that had outlasted violence and decades of earth. The words, dammed up for 29 years, finally broke free in a choked whisper. They said they'd kill our whole family. Mom was already gone. It was just me and Dad left. They showed me what they could do. He met Maria's gaze, the terror still there, but overlaid now with a desperate need for release. It was the Brotherhood detective, La Hermandad del Sur. She found out about the shipments. Shipments of what, Thomas? Cocaine? Maria pressed. He shook his head, a bitter, mirthless laugh escaping. That was small time. Pocket change. She found a real moneymaker. The Carga special. Guns. Rifles. Machine guns. Stuff for wars. Shipments coming up from Mexico, stashed in old mine shafts out here, moved through res land like it was nothing. On tribal trucks, sometimes. His voice gained a little strength, fueled by the torrent of truth. She found the ledger. Joe Martinez's ledger. He was connected. She saw the codes. Coyote equals AKs. A snake 50 cal. The Hermandad symbol. She told me she was going to the feds. That day at the river, I begged her not to, but she wouldn't listen. His voice broke. They were watching. They were always watching. They took her right in front of me. Made it look like she just gave up. He covered his face with his greasy hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I've lived with that every day, every single damn day, seeing them hold her under, hearing her. He couldn't finish. The latent print unit worked miracles. The cracked turquoise, acting like a tiny, protective vault within the ring's setting, had preserved minuscule traces of skin oils and salts. After painstaking cleaning and enhancement using vacuum metal deposition and advanced digital imaging, a partial fingerprint emerged from the fracture line. It wasn't perfect, fragmented, distorted by pressure and time, but it was enough. The AFIS database word, algorithms comparing ridges and whirls. Maria paced the small observation room, coffee cold and forgotten. Then a hit, a 92% probability match. The name on the screen sent a jolt through her. Vargas, Rafael El Lobo. Known Hermandad enforcer. Long rap sheet. Assault, extortion, suspected murder, no bodies, no convictions. Drug trafficking. Operated in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado. A ghost with teeth. And his print was on Anna Littlehawk's ring, placed there in a violent struggle 29 years ago. Maria slammed her hand on the desk. Got you, you bastard. This was the thread. Thomas's confession was a roadmap. El Lobo's print was the undeniable physical link. Warrants were drafted with urgent efficiency for Rafael Vargas, for the Double H Ranch, for the Coyote Canyon Mine, for Joe Martinez's garage, for Thomas Littlehawk's auto shop, now confirmed as a cartel front. The operation was greenlit, involving state police SWAT, FBI agents specializing in cartel activity, ATF for the weapons, and, crucially, cooperating officers from the Santa Clara Pueblo Tribal Police. The net was closing. The pre-dawn raid on the Double H Ranch was a symphony of controlled violence. Flashbangs concussed the still air. Breaching charges shattered old wood. State police. Search warrant. The shouts echoed in the dilapidated barn. Inside, beneath a thick layer of moldy hay, agents found crates. Not drugs. Weapons. Military-style AK-47 rifles, still coated in cosmoline, wrapped in oilcloth. Dozens of them. Serial numbers filed off. Coyote Canyon Mine was next. A treacherous drive into the Mesa country. The mine entrance, disguised by a rock fall, yielded to careful excavation. Inside the damp, echoing darkness, powerful flashlights revealed a horror show. Pallets stacked high with bricks of cocaine, yes, but alongside them, meticulously wrapped in plastic and bubble wrap, were handguns, Glock 19s, Berettas, AR-15 variants, and chillingly, several Barrett M82.50 caliber sniper rifles, Snake. The sheer scale, the professional packaging, spoke of an operation running smoothly for years, possibly decades. Millions of dollars worth of death, stored in the sacred earth. Joe Martinez was found hiding in a crawl space under his garage office, a snub-nosed .38 in his hand he didn't get to use. He cursed Thomas's name as cuffs snapped on his wrists. Thomas Littlehawk offered no resistance at his shop. He stood quietly, head bowed, as he was led away, the weight on his shoulders seeming to lessen even as the cuffs tightened. But Rafael El Lobo Vargas was gone, vanished like smoke. His known haunts, a dingy apartment in Española, a mistress's house in Taos, several favored cantinas, were empty. He'd sensed the shift in the wind. Maria coordinated roadblocks, bolos, airport watches. The manhunt was intense, fueled by the grim evidence found at the ranch and mine. The tip came from a nervous bartender at La Cantinita, a dive bar near the Colorado border frequented by Hermandad lowlifes. Vargas had been there, asking about a borrowed pickup truck, paying cash, looking twitchy. He'd mentioned needing to see a man about a horse near Chama. Maria knew the code. There was a remote fishing cabin near the Heron Reservoir, listed under an alias Vargas had used years ago. It was a long shot, but the only lead burning. Surveillance confirmed movement, smoke from a chimney on a cold night. SWAT moved in before dawn, a silent approach over frozen ground. The cabin door was flimsy. The breach was swift. El Lobo, older but still wolf-lean and dangerous, erupted from a back room, a sawed-off shotgun in his hands. He fired blindly, the blast tearing chunks out of the doorframe. Return fire was precise, disciplined. A bullet shattered his shoulder. Another took his legs out from under him. He went down snarling, disarmed, bleeding but alive. The wolf was caged, facing multiple life sentences, murder, racketeering, weapons trafficking spanning decades, and confronted with Thomas Littlehawk's damning testimony. The forensic evidence from Anna's ring and the mountain of weapons seized, El Lobo's arrogance crumbled. Survival instinct kicked in. He cut a deal. Names spilled out like rotten teeth. The Hermandad's regional commander based in Albuquerque, a seemingly respectable businessman. The logistics mastermind operating out of El Paso, a retired Army supply sergeant. The cartel liaison in Ciudad Juarez who facilitated the cross-border movements. He detailed the routes, using remote res roads, fake tribal business permits for construction equipment trucks, bribes to Border Patrol agents who looked the other way. He confirmed the carga, a special. Fuego was their most profitable line, feeding the insatiable appetite for military-grade weapons in Mexico and among extremist groups in the U.S. The investigation exploded into a multi-state, multi-agency task force, unraveling a network that had operated with near impunity for a generation. Justice, long dormant, was finally in motion. The wind carried the scent of sage and cedar smoke across the Santa Clara Pueblo. The air vibrated with the low, resonant beat of a drum and the soft chanting of elders. And a Littlehawk was coming home. Her remains, carefully gathered and placed in a simple, fragrant cedar box, were carried by tribal police officers in dress uniform. Elders in traditional dress led the procession, sprinkling cornmeal and chanting prayers for the journey of the spirit. The community lined the path. Elders who remembered the quiet girl, middle-aged men and women who had been children when she vanished, young people who only knew her as a tragic story. Their faces held grief, yes, but also a profound relief, a sense of closure long denied. Thomas Littlehawk walked behind the cedar box, head bowed, shoulders slumped but no longer cowering. His hands were empty. The crushing weight of secrecy was lifted, replaced by the heavy mantle of public guilt and the first, tentative flickers of release. Ben Carter and Koa stood respectfully at the edge of the gathering. Ben felt humbled, a witness to a circle finally closing. Koa sat quietly, sensing the solemnity, his intelligent eyes taking everything in. Later, on a windswept knoll overlooking the vast expanse of the Rio Grande Valley, a simple stone marker was placed beside Anna's parents. Anna Littlehawk, beloved daughter, sister, 1958 to 1981. Her voice silenced, her spirit endures. Thomas stood before it, alone for a moment. He placed a single, pristine golden eagle feather at its base. The wind caught it, making it tremble. Shimasani, he whispered, the Navajo term feeling more intimate, more fitting than sister. I failed you. I was weak. I let fear choke me. Forgive me." His voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." Detective Maria Gutierrez approached quietly. She didn't offer platitudes. She placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. She knew. "Thomas," she said, her voice low and steady. "In that moment, at the river, she saw your fear for her. That wasn't weakness. That was love, twisted and broken by monsters." She looked at the stone, then out at the endless sky. Her courage wasn't wasted. It took time, more time than anyone should have to wait, but it brought them down. Her silence was broken. She stopped them. Thomas looked at Maria, then back at the stone. A hawk circled high above, riding the thermals, its cry sharp and clear. He touched the cool face of the marker. "You always were the strong one, Anna," he murmured, a ghost of the brother Anna might recognize in his voice. "The brave one. Rest now. It's over. It's finally over." The wind carried his words away, scattering them over the red earth like seeds. As they walked back towards the pueblo, Koa nudged Ben's hand. Ben looked back. The late afternoon sun, slanting low, caught the turquoise stone now embedded securely in the top of Anna's gravestone. It blazed with an intense, almost liquid blue light, a tiny, enduring piece of the sky, a vibrant spark against the enduring earth, a silent testament to a life stolen, a secret buried deep, and a truth that finally, decades later, burned bright. Justice, like the desert rain, had been long delayed, but it had come. And a Littlehawk's voice, silenced in the mud of the Rio Chama, had echoed through time and the red earth, and finally, it had been heard.